Washington, D.C. Our great nation's capital is home to several mystical talismans of the occult. Several people travel to or through our capital or see timeless photos of its sensational architecture or aerial overviews of its cleverly crafted street plan and have little or no clue about the symbology of these structures or the fact that there's a much deeper sexual significance. Symbols are very abundant throughout human society, and one could say that symbolism is a language of its own. A language that is often misunderstood and rarely spoken fluently. Certain shapes or symbols are recognizable instantly, while others can be seen and rarely understood without explanation. Even if the eye recognizes the symbol, it is likely that the person viewing it knows very little about it or why it's there. To understand these symbols, we must first understand their archetypes. An archetype is an original pattern or model of which all things of the same type are representations or copies. Let's start with circles. Circles have been used since the beginning of time to represent the power of the female, a symbol for goddesses and the sun. It represents the spirit of feminine energy and a space that is sacred. Next, let's take a look at triangles. Triangles have three sides and are often used to represent the elements of nature: earth, water, wind, and fire. They are used to represent a trinity, in some cases, such as in the Christian religion, the Trinity of Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. But this trilateral shape can also have several double meanings as well. An upward-facing triangle or erect triangle symbolizes masculinity, fire, or sexual excitement, and a downward-facing triangle represents water, or the female pelvic region. For example, here we see an inverted, rainbow-colored triangle. It is commonly used to represent female homosexuality. This is the exact reason why women's restrooms are usually marked with circles and men's restrooms usually marked with triangles. The last archetype relevant to today's topic is the square. A square has four sides and strongly represents materiality within the world itself. The number 4 is often associated with the physical elements, the worldly directions, and the natural growing cycles of the 4 seasons, to name a few. The Brotherhood of Freemasons have had a long-standing connection to the square since the society's beginning. Squares are very significant to the Masons because they are equal on all sides, stable, orderly, they encourage permanent structures, and stand for firm foundations in both the literal and metaphorical sense. The Masonic logo of a compass T-square itself is sexually symbolic in nature. Designed after the use of a tool used to draw perfect circles, the compass, the outer circle represents the vagina. The inner part of the circle represents the sexual union between God and Goddess. The letter G in the square with a compass represents the generative male and female sex organs. It's also very important to note that the architect responsible for Washington, D.C.'s architectural layout and street plan was a French Freemason named Pierre L'Enfant. Freemasons are the world's renowned masters of hiding the archetypal shapes and several other forms of symbolism in plain sight. It is also their belief that symbols attract and generate the energy that they represent. That's because symbols and geometrical shapes are a physical manifestation of the thoughts which create them. Oftentimes, symbols are strategically placed near other correlating symbols because it is thought to help resonate the energy field to a specifically desired frequency, in turn affecting the thoughts and feelings of those near them. The White House, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, Northwest in Washington, D.C. Our Commander-in-Chief takes to the Oval Office to control the life of our nation. He glares out the south window to see the Washington Monument that lies in the center of D.C. The monument is a tall, four-sided, narrow, tapering monument which ends in a pyramid-like shape at the top. It stands a total of 555 and 1/8 inch tall, and is referred to as an obelisk. An obelisk is an ancient Egyptian phallic symbol of male and solar energy. It also symbolizes the penis of an Egyptian sun god named Osiris. The Oval Office looks directly out onto the Washington Monument. The English word oval comes from the Latin word ovum, which means egg, and is symbolic of the female ovary or lunar energy. It's no coincidence that these structures are within direct proximity of one another. It's also no coincidence that the President of the United States sits in the Oval Office to control the life of the nation. Between the White House and Washington Monument sits Ellipse Park. On the winter solstice, December 21st of every year around 11 a.m., the sun meets the tip of the Washington Monument and causes the shadow of the obelisk to cross over the white path surrounding the ellipse and penetrate the ellipse itself. To the old world religions, this represented the death of the winter and the birth of the returning sun. It was also considered to be the time at which the sun and earth would join one another in sexual communion within the skies. The child conceived at this time was represented by the bounty of nature in the following autumn. Given that the designers of America's capital were Freemasons, it's certainly no surprise to find sexually suggestive symbology of this nature hidden in plain sight. Things aren't always so plain to see. Sometimes you just need to look outside the box. Woo! That was amazing! But was it as good for you as it was for me? Hit that like button if you enjoyed it. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe for more hot, exciting, and enlightened content. I gotta get something to eat. I'm going to bed.